Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining this show, and I really appreciate Vakar to join this session. And Vakar, if I will introduce, Vakar is from University College London. He is the PhD scholar, and also he is doing the part-time as a researcher job at University of Cambridge, UK. And thank you very much, Vakar, to join this show. And first of all, we have two separate parts. One is about the chat GPT, and the second one is your journey, your interesting journey coming from Pakistan to UK, and how, as a PhD scholar, and how it was happened. It is interesting. So I will have a open discussion and open question to you about how you do you think about chat GPT to navigate this chat GPT, and the skill space required for this. What do you think about chat GPT in general? Then we'll have specific questions.
Thank you very much, Dr. Habib, for inviting me to this live session and asking me for my thoughts on this very interesting topic. So thank you very much for making all these arrangements. I really appreciate that. And about the point about the chat GPT, especially in this era, uh, I think at the moment, so globally, when did ChatGPT came up? So there was a wider um, I mean, concern among the academics in the universities and as well as in the research communities. So we should avoid using ChatGPT. It's very similar thing which happened with the automation back in 1950s when people were resisting we should not automate things because it will take the jobs of people. And eventually it happened with automation industries because it was very much good in productivity and then people adapt their skills accordingly. And something which happened with the calculator as well back in 1980s when people were resisting, no, we should not use calculators. It doesn't allow us to use our brains and we are too much dependent on it. And something very simple, a common problem which happened with internet in some part of the world when parents were resisting, oh, we should not use internet because it is ruining our children. So I think these are the global phenomena which we can't really resist, but we should adapt ourselves with the goodness and the promises which they offer, and at the same time we should avoid the pitfall which these technologies bring to us. So this is the common thing. We can't really resist ChatGPT in our academia, in our education, in the university, in the schools, colleges, wherever. Yes, the ethical part is something which we should really emphasize on. So we should be very careful about learning. So now coming back to the question, which is how we can explore the opportunities in the space of ChatGPT. I think it's a very very great tool. And I should say again, this is a tool. It's not really something which is a really a magic thing which will happen to us. It's very similar like internet, but it's more about the personalized form of answer which we get for our questions. Um, so at the same time, where it offers some opportunity to us, we should also be very careful about the part where the ChatGPT goes wrong. Because at the moment when I see the companies where they're investing heavily in these LLMs and making products and applications, not really thinking about where the problem will come up when they're selling these things. So there are some things, I mean, which we should be very careful about. So at the same time, where there are opportunities for the student and for the industry, there are some other problems in terms of wider social implication and adoption of these technologies. So this is just some general thoughts which I have about this thing, and then we can talk about some specific questions about these technologies.
Thank you, Vakar. And what do you think about ChatGPT for the early career engineers and researchers in technical domains, something like that?
I think yeah. So I was in AI UK 2025 this year, and there was I think I should have mentioned here in the beginning in UK. So people, the research community in Cambridge and Oxford, they were quite skeptical of using or doing research in LLMs, and even in the Alan Turing Institute where I'm working. So they were not really in the strategic position to invest in LLMs. But and now these days we know within 1 or 2 years. So the global trends have changed, and now everyone is saying there is something we should invest on to if we want to be really cutting edge in the research domain. So that is one part. So we should really invest in that. The other part, which I'm really interested to tell you about it. Even if you're an engineer or whatever technical thing you do, this is the best thing that you should have, because ChatGPT, it's just a tool. Uh, if you have to learn something new and you already have the domain knowledge, you already have your foundation, you know how things work, what is the mathematics behind it, what's the physics, and even though these reasoning things which have come up with ChatGPT and DeepSeek and some other applications, sometimes we find that the reason they give it's wrong. Um, so we should not really undermine the importance of technical knowledge which we get from, let's say, online universities books. It's a gold standard benchmark we have. We always have to consult with it. So whenever we have to learn something new, if using these LLMs, so first of all, the basic thing which humans have learned over the centuries, how to gain knowledge, how to learn knowledge, how to innovate new skills, they have to spend time learning these things. And how? uh, I mean, start something with the basic things, make your foundation, and then fine tune your skills and your strategies with the LLMs. They can give you some plan how you can learn new technology, but don't really rely on them. You can ask. They give you the accuracy rate up to 80%, 70%, and 85%. But again, we have to rely on the standard things like books, journals, news, to get new skills. We can ask them to give us work plan, we can learn new things, but we should not really rely on them. We always have to verify it with the standard tools we have, like books, papers, or domain expertise or experts, to learn which is very verifiable. Yes. So I sometimes when I have to learn something new, especially in my research, obviously, first of all, I just look at, I ask basic questions from LLMs. Okay, what it is, how it is, what is the mathematics. It gives me very foundational knowledge how things work, and then when I have to advance my understanding, so then again I have to go back to the standard way of learning to deepen my understanding, and then it's a iterative process, which actually, so this to actually help us to learn things very quickly. But we should be careful about, I mean, how accurate they are, and we should verify them from the standard literature and domain experts which we are working in this, which they're expert of.
That's good. That's good, Vakar, and that's nice. And from your journey from industry to academia, can you explain how this ChatGPT or AI skill set helped you transition and grow some?
I think when I transitioned to academia, to my PhD from industry, ChatGPT was not that mainstream thing in that time back in 2022, but it was a phenomenon. I think back in end of 2022 when ChatGPT erupted and people started using it. Um, even yeah, I think we can. I think I can talk about it. Um, so imagine now, let's say if I have to do transition now, let's say I was in industry, I'm industry at the moment, I have to transition to academia. So how can I use ChatGPT, for example, um, to navigate skills and opportunity in the academic space? So I think first of all, I would see where my interest lies, which sort of research I want to do. At the same time, the research I will do, how it would be helpful for me to navigate my career after my PhD. So the career trajectories, market opportunities, or even if I have to stay in academia after my PhD, that's fine. So I first find out my my niche, or my um, where I want to work. So once the field has been identified, and then just looking at, so what are the key trends and topics which researchers, especially in the academic space, are exploring these days, and how those research topics are linked with the global problems, especially climate change and social injustice, or raising the energy efficiencies of the industrial system, etc. So I'm linking my localized research avenues with the global problems. So this was this should be my initial plan for formulating where I'm going to do research. So once I have identified, so these are something which are of interest of me. At the same time, they are market relevant and to the researchers who are doing research. It doesn't matter if I'm really an expert in or I know those things or not. It's fine. So once we have identified the market in terms of finding PhD and my career, which I will pursue, the next thing is then comes up. Okay, how I develop some skills or how I can develop some my expertise in those areas. I think this is the point where ChatGPT will help you a lot. If you start looking into the standard literature, because it would be too big and so overwhelming that you'd be confused. Okay, how should I start? It's so difficult sometimes. If you let's say if you're doing stochastic optimization, which is very difficult topic in chemical engineering. If you start learning, let's say, mathematics of neural networks, if you don't really know what neural networks are, you will be overwhelmed, or you will say, "Oh no, it's so difficult." So don't do this way. Just identify some strategic things and look at the big picture, and then break down your aim and your career plan into small milestone and small steps, and corresponding to each step, find out what are the relevant skills. So identify the relevant skills which would be relevant in your career, in your PhD, or if you want to pursue a PhD, and the academics which are offering some opportunities in that space. So what sort of expertise they are looking at. I think so. This is a general thing, but to be a bit more specific, especially in this area, in this time, I think regardless in which industry you are in, for example, you are doing some marketing job, you are sales engineer, you are, let's say, the in charge, or you are, process engineer in some industries, or you are design engineer, or you do maintenance, etc., etc. What sort of engineering jobs you do? An engineer, whichever field it belongs to, an engineer should be a modeler. When I say modeler, so modeler is someone who can describe the phenomena, the process, uh, in the language of mathematics, which we call as mathematical modeling, or through data-driven modeling. Data-driven modeling is more appealing because it's relatively easy compared to mathematical modeling, because mathematical models, when we have to develop, it takes a very long time, and you need to develop some strong skills. Data-driven modeling relatively is easier. So, and you already, because when you're working in certain disciplines, so you know your areas, you know the problems where you work on, you already have a domain expertise. You just need to translate that problem into the language of mathematics. If you can do it, that's fine. If you can't, that's okay. Or you can convert it into, or you can define the problem, collect the data, and try to develop data-driven model. This is something which is a very basic thing, which everyone should do. Even if you're a biologist, you're a doctor, you should do that. It's not a difficult thing. You have the data, you just have to use tools, neural networks, regression, classification, etc. tools. And with this, and the ChatGPT, which you're talking about, just ask ChatGPT, give me a code, let's say in Python, which I want to use to model, let's say something. I have these my features, and I want to predict this feature. So it will give you the code and try to develop this model. So once you develop a model which is relevant to your field, let's say biology or even sociology, for example, try to explain it, try to predict it, and then so once you are able to do these things, you are good in. Let's say you have some experience in doing modeling. One next step which is very relevant, and it would be very helpful to you in your PhD. Start doing some sort of optimization. Optimization looks something very fancy word or very catchy word, but it's not. Eventually, even if you are Dr. Habib, you are also from your background in optimization. In real life, we have to do optimization of everything we are doing with. For example, I'm running a school and I want to maximize my profit, subject to the number of students I have, and whatever I'm doing with these are my constraints. This is a problem, and I have to optimize it given to the constraints I have. Constraints, no one will tell you constraint. You have to define constraint yourself, and you can do that. It's not a difficult thing, and try to solve it. So when you start solving it, it doesn't matter which sort of solvers you have to choose to solve this problem. but you should have some intuition which sort of solvers are available in the literature. Let's say you solve it by linear programs, you solve it by nonlinear programs, you solve it by mixed integer nonlinear programs. These are some areas, right, where some traditional solvers are available. Or if you don't want to do mathematical optimization, you can use some evolutionary based optimizers. Try to solve it. So what my point is, wherever you are working in, try to have some first-hand experience in data-driven modeling and optimization. ChatGPT is there. Just ask ChatGPT, I want to do this. Give me the code in Python. It would be iterations. It will ChatGPT will start with very basic thing, very basic thing. That is the point. This is how we learn. We should start with something very basic things. So once things start to give us some solutions, and we look at them, we evaluate how accurate they are based on the domain expertise you have. I can't really evaluate the accuracy of the results for your domain problem. You can evaluate, and then slowly you can add top up complexity and more relevant things. So once you can explain these things, and then once we start looking some opportunities in your areas, I believe people will take you seriously when they will evaluate your application. And this is how we can navigate more skills, whichever is of interest to me, and then we can expand our career. It's not really something we can do for academia as well. If you have to advance in your career in real life, you can learn new skills, and you can try to sell these things to your boss, to the market, with these tools. And these tools would be very helpful to advance in whichever career stage you are in.
Very good, very good. Nice explanation, Bakar. Selling the skills, and also engineer should be a modular, you mentioned, and also the optimizations, constraints, our daily life problems, it's actually solved by optimizations, and the constraints like profit or something in the business. And also, and one thing, Bakar, just I observed during your discussion that Python, what I observed, Python long codes, ChatGPT failed to address them, even the paid version. What do you think? A long code mean very long code. I observed in the some people in the organizations who are doing the consultancy roles. They have the Python codes very long, so you cannot copy paste the whole code in the Python in the ChatGPT. What is the step by step solution? How to use ChatGPT to tackle that one?
Yeah, I think ChatGPT has a limited space in terms of tokenization, which we give to it, and then it evaluates. Uh, so I think like your question is very valid. And it also tells, the common problem which happens, how we approach these tools. So if you understand what is the limitation of ChatGPT, then we can address this problem. So every language model has limited capacity to handle tokens. So we call it tokenization, where each letter in the code is taken as a token. And then if we have very long code, so imagine your token would be in millions probably, and ChatGPT cannot handle that. So what we can do then, we have to troubleshoot our code. Not really troubleshoot. We have to make blocks of our code. We can make small and small blocks of my code, because eventually in the big code there would be small blocks which will give you some output, and that output goes to another block. And this is sequential or parallel operation which happen in the code, and then eventually you get something. So break it down into small chunks. Try to, and sometimes the code is written. I'm not a coding person, but it may be a problem. Sometimes we don't really write the codes in a very efficient way, because as an engineer I can't really write the code very efficient way. I just write down the way I can understand. But if the code is not written efficiently, we can try to make it efficient. Which ChatGPT can do that. If you can do at your developing side, ask the developer or coder to make it efficient, it's fine. But if you can't, okay, so make the small chunks, pass it on to GPT, and then once it gives you back the code, verify it. I think it's very important, verify it,
Yes.
because it's a very big problem after that. Because once we just integrate it with the whole existing system, which was working some way, and after that we did not pay attention to the output which came off with these models, it would be a problem. Uh, and I think it can do that, but we need to break it down to these small chunks. Otherwise, I'm not sure how, in the paid versions, especially with ChatGPT, how much they cost. But with probably Llama has some more range of more flexibility for processing these codes.
Yes, and also, Vakar, that's there is a ChatGPT version. If we buy the paid version, for example, and it memorize our history as well. So you have the history what you are doing. So ChatGPT also helpful, for example, to guide you if you have any question based on your history. He can further guide you, something like that, like a doctor, family doctor, or something family person like that. So, what do you suggest about the free version? Those people who are doing the free version or the paid version, what's the importance of that, and what's your opinion on that? Should we use the paid version, or those who cannot afford? What do you think they should buy it, or free version is fine?
I think uh, because the paid version is something, it's not really a doable thing,
Yeah,
even for the people in UK as well, because it's a big money. The point is, in whichever business I am in, can I really afford that? That is the first question. The second question, what's the value which I can bring out of it? For example, if I'm paying £200 a month, so what's the return when I can get out of that? Uh, I think because these days we have quite a lot of new language models, um, and some of them are paid and some are open source. I think first of all, which if I have to do something, I would just look at what is the return for purchasing a new one. Obviously, a new one gives you some better capabilities because it gives you more tokens you can evaluate from them. But with the free ones, as long as a domain expert, I can see if it is giving me relevant solutions, which I can implement somehow. I'm fine with it. But if the paid one or my business model can afford to have the paid ones for me, so I can go for that. Because and after that, because the accuracy of the advanced model like GPT-4 is much better than the free ones. um, it can be explored, but we should be very careful about, okay, as a strategic move. So what's my problem, and I really need the paid one for my business.
that's nice, good. And one thing, specific to your research area and especially digital twins, those people who are doing the same area, just guide them that how they can effectively use ChatGPT for them, for that specific domains or niches.
I think um, if we have to make a digital twin, for example, um, I already have some understanding of the domain knowledge for whichever type of problem I want to make a digital twin for. Um, and generally, engineers, um, they don't have a strong coding background, very strong coding background,
Yes.
but they have a very applied one. And I think that's fairly enough, sufficiently enough. After that, so once I have a clear problem which I want to do, for example, in digital twins,
Hmm.
it depends for which level of interaction you want for your problem. For example, if I'm an operator sitting in front of the DCS system and I'm operating something, so digital twin for operator would be different because it has to interact with the whole process equipment, the interaction of the equipment, and then how the system response changes, because it's a real-time control the operator is doing. So digital twin would be very much different for them. And if I'm the process engineer of the whole process, I would not be really looking at how operator is doing whatever he's doing. No, I would just be looking at, okay, so what is the system performance efficiency and how much energy consumption is going into my system. So I would be looking at more about the strategic performance evaluation of the system. So for me, for the process engineer or the performance engineer, the interaction of the digital twin with the performance would be more like monitoring and supervising. Okay, um, I think if we stand back to the problem nature, because operators, process engineers, performance engineers, they can't really make digital twin because this is not their skill set. They have to rely with some sort of, I mean, consultancies or interaction with the computer scientists, or maybe the fresh graduates coming from the universities who have some sort of first-hand experience making these digital twin tools. But still, again, they don't know the process. They have to spend some time in the industry process to learn, understand what the problem is, how the problem works. what are the constant, etc. So once after spending one year, 6 months, they can understand the process with the fresh engineers, and then they will start making the digital twins. So what ChatGPT will do for them? Try to make ChatGPT will give you the basic workflows. First of all, in terms of modeling, and then how you will make a user interface, and then how you will embed your models in the user interface, and how you will interact with them. And then the next thing would be where you are going to host your models and your interfaces. Is it some online, and how you will face the cyber attacks against your your digital representation of your whole plant system. And then the other thing would be, so that's more about the maintenance side. Maybe you have to go to some, I mean, Azure or AWS or some other platforms for security. I don't know if the CEO or the some other guy in the industry is really interested in spending such a big
Yes,
money on all
absolutely.
these things, and he would
Yes.
be asking, okay, what's your return? What value you will give to me? Um, and the other side is the technical side. These models, they break down after a certain time. You have to update them. So 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 whenever we have to update, so we have to learn new things, how to correct or calibrate these models, and how to make them compliant with the system. So these are some research challenges. But if obviously ChatGPT will help you in in giving answers to some of the question. But again, this is just the probabilistic answers. They're not exact answers. You have to evaluate them as a domain expert and then use them accordingly in your problem solving phase.
Thank you. That's good, wonderful. And one thing, Vakar, just those people who are in Pakistan or India, because your background in, I will ask you another question about this. Uh, no one helping guide is available as, a, for example, consultancy or something as an individual, and they want to pursue. They have the BSc degree, for example, and they want to pursue master or PhD, and afraid of coding or even research. What to go and so what you suggest for them and what's encouraging for them using the chat gpt.
Um, I think if I understand the question correctly, so your question is about how they can find admission in masters, right?
Something
After.
in master, and also to pursue the research in master, they are afraid they have no background of master,
Hmm.
even bachelor degree. And bachelor degree, you can say no background of research or even no interaction with the professors regarding the projects or something like that. And also the admission guideline is okay, these kind of things. And consultancy people are paying many money to the consultants, and no, ChatGPT can play the role of consultancy as well as a consultant for them. So just how they can be helped, and they can save even money to waste and something like that. And how ChatGPT will be beneficial for them with this all of this process, please.
Hmm. I think, yes, I think it's quite a challenging problem, and this problem will remain with us. I mean, for very as long as we humans are on this world, because we always want to want better in life. So that's a one more like philosophical thing. But I think coming back to the question, yeah. So I think depending upon whichever university you are in, and how and how, and what did you learn from there, that is something. Once you're graduate, it's not in your hand now. If you are in the university, for example, and you are listening me, for example, and you want to do something in research, or you want to pursue your higher education in abroad, um, so especially for finding I mean a fully funded master's or PhD program, or let's say some industrial job abroad. um, so we need to look at the skill set which is required, either for admission in master's, PhD, or for job. um, Whatever you're learning in your college, it's fine, because you can't really control that. But what something you can control that is, first of all, your awareness, right? um, and what is the current trend in the job market? What are the hot selling skills in research, specifically these days, machine learning, optimization, and digitalization, and um, process, I mean, and net zero decarbonization. So these are the hot topics, and throughout the world, research and professors, researchers, they are investing a lot in these areas. So once you know that these are the areas, even if you are in the university or you are graduated, and you don't have the background, the experience in coding and some other relevant disciplines, I think we need to spend some time then. We should not be in hurry, should not be in rush. Spend, what do I mean by this? Spend 1 or 2 years. I mean, it- uh, improve uh, your profile in the sense of the skills you learn. Um, Eventually, for example, I'm evaluating the application for my master's program, and I will be funding you. So I have certain project where the student would be working on. Obviously I would find a relevant one who has the skills. Um, so we need to learn new skills, and this is something which I explained before. In whichever field you are working, once you are graduated, and it doesn't matter, to be honest, it doesn't matter from which top university you graduate. No one cares about it, to be honest, as long as you are giving me the skills which I need for my project to be complete. um, Try to learn new skills which are relevant. I think it's a vague thing what I'm saying, new skills. If I say to be very specific and precise, try to learn modeling, um, try to learn optimization, try to make some sort of interfaces where you develop, where you, I mean, embed these model and optimization codes. It looks difficult, but it's not, to be honest. Not, it's not difficult. And some online free versions of user interfaces are available, like um, they call it Streamlit. It's available in Python. You can just embed your model at the backend, and in the front end you have the interface, you have the toggle. Just play with it and find something. So these are some new skills, right? Try to learn them and in your own pace. Even some courses are available online, which we can take, and they're free if you want to develop some background and foundational knowledge in them. It will take some time. Don't rush, because, for example, if you, right after your bachelor, you start applying for masters, and you know that your skill level is not that advanced, it's better to find some, let's say, some job, right? And within your job, try, you learn things in your job, um, whichever field you're working in, and then try to use, on top of that, try to use these tools. I think it will really improve your profile. And another thing is, sometimes students forget, try to document these things. When I say document, um, if you do something in your field, let's say you're doing, um, you do some sort of sales job, right? Where you have to sell some industrial equipment of whatever to the customer. So you know that this was your market, this was the time, these are the components you sell, this is how much you, and this is how your sales are being changed. You make some model, okay, uh, and then you document it in a way of just write down 1 paragraph, 2 paragraph, 3 paragraphs, right, and make some sort of interactive plots. So this is how sales were changing, this is what you did in terms of modeling, and this is how you recommend some sort of suggestions. Just write a small blog. So there are so many online free versions of these platform where you can write on the blogs. This is a documented thing. If you're going to write on the paper, ideally you should write down a good quality paper and try to publish it in Q1 journals. If you're really serious about your getting first, PhD or your masters, um, and at the same time, you shouldn't have time. Obviously, these constraints and situations are very different for different people. But we have to do something. Try to document it in a way so that people can access to your work, and anyone who is the expert in the field, and he can judge the quality of the work, whatever you have put in there, so they can give you the weightage for that. I think this is the way, probably, if they are weak in coding, or their skill level is relatively small. So don't rush then. Try to learn relevant skills in your own pace with these tools and online free resources, and try to solve some problem when you're learning new skills. I think solving the problem and trying to selling it to the relevant market, it would be helpful to navigate the opportunities.
That's good. That's good. Because you mentioned in your during this discussion that learning optimization. So one another question arises in my mind that learning optimization techniques like mixed engineer linear programming, GAR, PSO, particle swarm, genetic algorithm, these techniques often involves dealing with multiple files, M files of the MATLAB, and these M files are linked with the main script. So for beginners who don't have even idea for these algorithms, that they feel overwhelming. So what approach would you recommend to effectively understand and manage these such files, and how to create these files using the chat gpt, because they are starting from the beginner? I know you have already mentioned that they have to start with the simple steps, but this is the, so you can say this is the target, and what are those simple steps they have to follow to have the big picture of this system?
I think, Dr. Habib, your question is very relevant to something which you do, and then it is linked with the general audience, like the students. I think in your case, because you do consultancy, and obviously you would have very big codes for the big system, and you have M files in MATLAB, which is fine, very, very big. And they take very long time if you want to solve them like GA or PSO or the other optimization tools, which is fine. Um, but for the students, like for example, at graduate level or an undergraduate level, um, okay, because I have a chemical or mechanical engineering background, I can talk about it in this way. For example, we want to learn optimization in in general, right? And there are two main streams: mathematical based or evolutionary based. It doesn't matter whichever field you start with. You can choose either of them, like genetic algorithm or PSO or nonlinear programming or I think don't want to, or let's just stochastic optimization, because then we need to formulate the problem accordingly. In chemical engineering or in mechanical engineering, we deal with thermal systems, power systems, right? And it's a very basic, let's say, a cycle in Brayton cycle or Rankine cycle. The I mean, the equations are already established: mass flow rates, temperatures, pressures, etc., etc. And you can find, you know that this is the temperature, this is the of steam, temperature of steam at the inlet of the turbine, right? This is the exhaust temperature, this is the vacuum, this is the inlet temperature, etc., etc. You know your inputs, right? Which you can develop from only on understanding, and it depends how big problem you want to formulate. So once you do that, this is your input, right? And then on the output, you can see, okay, how much power is produced when your process temperature, pressures, flow rate were this, and corresponding to the power output, what is the efficiency, right, of the process. So once you have this mathematical model, um, it should not be very big, to be honest. In the beginning, it should be small. And then you try to simulate this model on different process conditions. You set this temperature, this pressure, this flow rate, etc., etc., etc. You make a table, right? And the table length is, let's say, hundreds of, let's say, rows or tens of rows. Now you have a reasonable size of data which captures different interaction, or which capture almost good information, and all, I should not say all, but reasonable size of operating behavior of the whole process under different process conditions. So once you have this table, so we can make the model, right? And that model with, let's say, neural networks or XGBoost, random forest, it's not a very big model. It's just a small model. And in the optimization, um, and then for the sake of simplicity, for chemical engineering domain, the optimization which generally suits to this kind of problem is a simple optimization. It can be multi-objective, or it can be nonlinear uh, process optimization. For them, they can embed their model into the optimization, and they can then define objectives. So my objective is I want to maximize power for this Rankine cycle or Brayton cycle, and I want to maximize the efficiency, right? At the same time, I want to minimize the emissions, because if I'm using, let's say, some fuel which is giving me the energy for energy transfer, and this fuel is linked with the emission which come up, I know, so these emissions are being released whenever this process works. So I have another objective which I want to minimize. So this is a multi-objective optimization problem. I have, I mean, experience in these types of problem solving. So these are not very big problems. And then you can define some constraints. And so now I relate with your question, like before you were saying. Um, in Data-driven models and data-driven optimization, the size of the problem is not very big. It's a small size. And the process simulation and optimization and the evaluation, the objective function, it's relatively quicker because the data-driven models are very quick, very flexible, and the computational expense is very, very low compared to simulating the very big mathematical model. So as the students and for the consultant as well, if they want to increase the computational overhead, they can replace some of the mathematical part of their model through data-driven models just to try to approximate them, and then they can speed up, accelerate the optimization-based analysis. But for the students, they have some, now they can embed these models. They have the objective function. They can define some constraints, and they can try to solve it. I think it takes some seconds actually in Python. I would not say Python. I would not recommend student to use MATLAB. Uh, MATLAB is a very stable, very very good tool, very very stable tool. But for the students, because it's better for them to use open source libraries and computing environment. It's better to spend your time in familiarization with these tools. With I mean, how you will debug your codes and what sort of challenge will come up. But in the long run, it will help you a lot. Well, it really really helps you a lot if you start investing in Python because everything is free. You don't need to pay MATLAB or some other software which charge you a lot for just for the sake of the stable environment they offer you, but they don't give a lot of diverse tools um, for doing different things. So for the students, they can do these things. If they need some sort of more specific help, so maybe it's a very cheap way of publicizing your own work. So I have open source some codes. Uh, you want the data is there, the model is there. I mean, even the code is there. Just run it on your system and try to simulate it. Try to run it, and whatever problems come up, to try to solve it. And you already have the benchmark solution, which is written with the associated papers. Try to verify with them. If you start doing this, so you will get some confidence. Oh, okay, so it's working. And so now I can just change this code for my problem, for my model. So once we try to familiarize or get confident with these new, I shouldn't say new, but let's say with these codes, then let's change it for your own problem. And this is how they can. I think they can move forward then. And obviously, the real life problem are very very big, like you were saying. I totally understand. Academics work in a very different way. They just have to propose new things or provide the feasibility of the things. But in real life, things go very big. So again, the point is how we can decompose or reduce the model. How can we approximate? How can we have better approximation of the very big models? Or how can we use better solver? I think in your case, you're using genetic algorithm and PSO, which are very, very slow and they're evolutionary. So I have experience. They work very slow. So
Yes.
we can find relevant solvers, which do relatively computationally efficient, and at the same time they give you mathematical guarantees for the solution you get. And on the top of that, if we introduce some sort of uncertainty, um, so this is where things goes really, really, challenging to solve when uncertainty is there in your process, in your real world demand, etc., etc.
That's nice. Good, good, good. And also, Kar, another thing, you have to use the digital twins and have to work from the. I think so. You are sponsored by the Pakistan or what? I'm just transitioning now from here to your story. One other question, because you also your experience in India and Pakistan, so you are good a blend of Pak India relationship as well. So what is that? How was it? And can you please explain? It's something different and interesting.
Yeah, thank you very much for paying attention to this because, and I think I should say very clearly. So my PhD is funded by Punjab Educational Endowment Fund. It's based in Punjab, and I should proudly say this is one of um, the I should say the semi-government institute in Punjab, which really work on merit, to be honest. Um, and we have seen cases like the students sometimes uh, they try to get opportunity based on something, but if you are not really qualified, they don't give you. Um, so my PhD is is funded by PIF, and it's a very good organization, and they uh, yeah, they give you a very good opportunity to learn and to pursue a PhD in top university in the world. And we and a lot of our alumni they did really, really good work from top universities, and some of them came back to Pakistan, serving in Pakistan in university, and some are working in top universities in the world at the moment as postdocs and academics. So this is something from my background. And about like you mentioned about the different projects I worked on. So this was a project which I get the chance to work with the IIT Delhi team. So they have been working in experimentation side, and it was a joint collaboration between UCL and IIT Delhi, and where I worked with my supervisor in UCL with the team in IIT Delhi, and we developed uh, the 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 modeling tools for their process, and we try to maximize the recovery of the metals from the waste printed circuit boards through these modeling and optimization tools. So this is how I have been working with the team. Yeah, it has been very nice experience, and we still are in good. Although the project has been almost finished, we are in good contacts and in relationships, and we are still expanding our research collaboration in different areas as well.
And Vakar, one thing, have you visited India during this process? Because it's something. Okay, okay, okay. Yes, yes.
I wanted to, but I did not get the chance to
Because
visit.
this kind of tradition not existing, but I encourage. I think so. It will happen. It will be good. I think so. Because
Yeah, I wanted to do it, but and then there have been some constraints at my side because of the PhD and some other things. But hopefully in the future, but yes, we have good connections. We have good contacts with the top Indian educational institutes, and we are working with them. So yeah, so research. I mean, the in-person visit can be possible one someday. But yes, we are working together on some different projects.
I think so. My suggestion, if you will initiate this process and you will visit India during this process, it will be a something new, break. You can say groundbreaking ceremony, something like that for the audience and those people. And this Pakistan-Indian relationship on research will be established. I think so, and you will be the pioneer. I think so. This is what I my thinking. And Vakar, one thing, how to get funding? Complete process. You have get funding from Pakistan, and when it is start every year, whether it is every year or it's just and how many years to fund? I mean, PhD duration, how much maximum they fund? Is there any limitation? And also how to because whether it's securing PhD admission abroad is you have to secure and then apply, or what is the process? Please, can you guide for the audience?
I think if you're just talking about finding your funding from Pakistan,
Yes.
um, then it's advertised every year.
Okay.
Um, so so the idea with PIF is, first of all, you have to find a secure admission in I think it's top 50 universities in your subject. Try to get admission, and then you apply for the program for the scholarship in PIF. If they ask you for the interview and if they select you for the project which you will be doing in your PhD, and then they give you a monthly stipend, and at the same time your fee, the fee which they have to pay for university, and it is for all duration of your PhD. I mean, so it's more about a fully funded with stipend a PhD which PIFs offer you for almost 4 to 5 years of your PhD, and in return, you just have you have to serve I mean Pakistan for 1 year, uh, right? Not right after PhD, within 5 years after your PhD, so that because sometimes once you graduate with your PhD and you still have some more research plan, you want to do some post more, get more experience. So PhD is really flexible in that sense, and then say, okay, you can continue your research after a PhD, let's say 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, and then after that you can come to Pakistan for only for 1 year and do, I mean, whatever work you want to do in academia or in research-based industrial organizations, and then after that you're free to pursue your career. But I think one thing which sometimes which actually happened with me as well, because finding a funded PhD, especially in this time when there is a problem, a crisis in the US because of the funding problems by the Donald Trump, even the academics are fleeing to Europe and some other parts of the world. So is the case with the students as well, because then they will find difficult to find admission in US. So competition is going to be very, 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 very tough, very competitive. So the idea is, um, like we were saying, so we have to be, I mean, we should diversify at the same time. We should have some depth of skills when we are applying for the program. So yeah, we are competitive. And after that, it, I mean, a PhD admission is something which is, what should I say? You can't really predict it if you're going to get it or not. For example, in my generally what happens, you spend 1 to 2 years, and within 1 to 2 years, you are constantly updating your statement of purpose, your projects, your cover letters, etc., etc. All these things, um, and then it takes time. Takes time. But we should be persistent. We should keep applying and improving your application. I think which one this is one thing. The other thing which I should mention. So
Yes.
sometimes it is always helpful to um, to make a connection with the Pakistani, or I mean the relevant person who are abroad and they're doing some research, because sometimes we find that, oh, there is opportunity and we can recommend to our supervisors. Oh, I know some person who you can take in your PhD admission. And finding the connection is also a very important thing. That is some other dimension which students should also work on, along with improving their application and some other things. Try to make connection with the people outside, and use LinkedIn actively to find the relevant persons and keep looking at their activity, what they're offering, and I think it will help.
Very good. So you mentioned about the networking, so and connections using the LinkedIn. Just please elaborate a little about this. How the persons who are not very familiar, or even they are not using in detail the LinkedIn. Just advice for them, please. How to be networking and how to be for any special any area they are searching for that. Specific steps to follow, please.
I think if the objective is to look at or find a PhD admission, for example,
Yes.
for using LinkedIn, the idea is, obviously, first of all, you know in which area you're going to work, and within that area, um, yeah, if you use LinkedIn to with some keywords, like for example, you want to do research in transportation planning, just write down transportation planning and some relevant keywords. You can use ChatGPT for that. Okay, what are the relevant keywords with the transportation planning, transportation modeling, etc., etc. Use these keywords on LinkedIn and go to the people, and within the people, look at who are working in the universities, right? Who are professors who are working in some research organizations, and then look at their profiles, what they are, posting, what are their current trends, what they are really interested in. Um, yeah, so try to familiarize with them, and see what these skills they're looking at. Obviously, it will be quite overwhelming, but the core of the whole, these discussion is something which even ChatGPT cannot overcome, is the basic human intuition and the skill to interpret and to understand the problem, and then translate it into mathematics or data-driven modeling. If you have these skills and optimization skills, then you can sell them whatever problem they're doing. I think these days everyone is talking about, everyone, even though it was before as well, but now with the new keywords and new catchy fancy phrases, so things, terminologies have changed. For example, data mining was something which is used back in 1990s and 2000. That data mining is converted into machine learning, and now maybe some other time they will say some other terminologies, but these are some basic things which we need all the times. Try to learn these things, and then, yeah, so update your profiles. And yeah, so if they sometimes advertise some open ended collaborative things with the students. or they offer sometimes masters. I think this is how you can, um, yeah, so find some relevant skills and relevant network, um, and and also make your presence on LinkedIn through, yeah, through your work you're doing, or some, if you're facing a problem, just post it there, try to take feedback. Maybe some relevant person came out to you, and this is how it goes. It should be. It looks like organic way of expanding your connection and network, and then use it meaningfully for your objectives.
That's nice. That's nice. And also one thing, Navakar, some people's, for example, in Pakistan, I observe in Al Qadar University was there, and the Al Qadar University Trust, which was built by respectable Imran Khan, and that university was funded many people's. And one student I was in, I observed in UK, he said that they stopped the funding. So how secure it to get these kind of fundings? Or we should have some plan B, C, something like that, and don't trust on these kind of, because government are changes, though not stability in Pakistan political, and we cannot stake our future on government, something like that.
I mean, ideally, this should not happen, but in real world, it happens. So the point is, so how can we survive, or I mean, or I mean, survive in these kind of things? And I mean, with beef as well. Um, I mean, we have been lucky enough in the sense of whenever PEEF send the students abroad, they already have the whole funding, right, for the whole PhD project. But sometimes it happens, your funding agency, or because of some crisis, your country can't afford to pay your fee. For example, in my research group, there's a student from another country, and because of some crisis in his country, the country say, "Oh no, we can't really pay this money." Um, so what happens then? Um, um, there are some ways, like some universities offer you some international, some hardship funds, and they can, you can stop your PhD for a while, or you can ask for, sometimes there are some, I mean, fee waiver programs in the universities. Obviously we shouldn't rely on them, but they're just for emergency conditions. If the funding stops in terms of admission fees, especially in UK, it would be a big problem, because UK based international studies is very, very expensive, and you can't really make it by yourself alone. But if it's the problem with your stipend, then I think, uh, in the UK, I can say about it. And it also depends on your PhD project, how much. If it's very lab based, then it would be difficult to find some job. I mean, along with your lab based work, because you have to go to lab every 5 days, sometimes 7 days. It would be difficult to find some part time work. But if it's computational remote job, yeah, you can do that, something part time within the visa restriction and within the contract of your funder. This is how you can manage it. But I think, if you are, let's say, if you are outside and your funding has some problems, so yeah, so we can make a plan in the very first day that this may happen, and how we can overcome these things. So there are opportunities. You can do some part-time work within your lab, within your supervisor can recommend you some teaching in the university as a teaching assistant. You can overcome some of these things. Obviously ideally should not happen, but it happens. So these kind of additional things give you some more experience, because this is a PhD. It's not really about research. It's balancing very, very different nature of dimensions. Your family dimensions, your research, your societal things, and your internal. I mean, I mean, I mean, your internal communication is happening. So you have to balance it out. So this is the whole very unique learning process. Yeah. So if you have these kind of problems, so we can plan in the very first day, so how we can make and minimize these risks for our PhD.
That's good. And I also got one thing: those people who are doing the PhD, and you mentioned the part-time job is not possible, or even it's not to balance this. Balancing is the factor. So, as a freelancer, how to use the Chat GPT as a freelancer in our technical domains? Everyone doing that, and to earn money, something like that online. how you encourage them, and what areas or aspects you think that are encouraging for the audience, please.
I think the part-time work, um, in some cases, like in UK, you can't be a freelancer if you are if you are doing your PhD or you're doing masters. You can't, because it comes under self-employed category. So this is not. I'm not sure about other parts of the world, but yes, um, yeah. So even though you start doing some, like I was doing research assistant job in Cambridge. This is the part-time work I'm doing. Um, for these new projects which are not really the part of your relevant to PhD. For example, my case was the economic analysis of AI related firms in the UK's economic productivity, which is very different from my chemical and technical side of PhD. It's a part-time work. So yes, we use these tools um, for learning new skills, and and we can overcome some of the financial difficulties which come up because of some uncertain or unplanned situations. Yeah, so yeah, so these language tools can be used for learning new skills, and they can be very different ways of finding some part-time jobs. It depends which kind of jobs which you are comfortable in, and you remain compliant with the visa compliance. Um, you can do that. If you want to do freelancing, yes, you can do that. And you can learn new skills. You can make your pitch deck there, and yeah, you can start selling your services.
Wonderful, wonderful. Vikas, thank you very much for this rich and thought-provoking conversation. And I truly appreciate your time, your expertise, and your general insights for both topics, ChatGPT, career, and other questions. And final thoughts or final advice for the audience from your side before ending the session, please.
I think, yeah. Thank you very much, Dr. Habib, for arranging all of these things. I have been, thinking about it and to write down something, some general. My experience, um, how some students can pursue, their career either in industry or in academia, but because of some time constraints and some other, I couldn't do it because now this is something which we have now shared here. So and someone can can hear us about these career trajectories. Um, I think my advice would be, um, one thing which I would emphasize on, which I have observed here as well. Um, so the first one is we should do some really hard work. uh, what do I mean by this? Well, we should be and at the same time consistent. Like I see like some students in different parts of the world, like Chinese students and Italians, Greeks. I worked with them, so they're very hardworking, very consistent in their efforts. This is the first thing. The other thing is be open-minded in terms of learning new skills, because learning is something which help you in a very in in a way that you were not thinking of. For example, if you learn very diverse tools and you are mindful of them, you can apply those things in a very interdisciplinary way to tackle the problem. For example, for example, what someone is doing, social aspect of the technology, someone is looking at the economic implications, and someone is looking at the technical development. So if you have some sort of interdisciplinary understanding of these things, so you can develop better solutions. So this would be also my advice to um, look around the big picture. It's always nice to look at the big picture and how robust and a good solution we can estimate. The other thing is, like I was saying, it is even if you're an engineer, for example, if you're a doctor or radiologist or social science person, these days with ChatGPT or other language models, modeling is not a big issue. We have relevant data. Or if you want to learn something, try to collaborate with people who are relevant expert in these areas, so you can collaboratively solve big problems or summarization problems for your career plans and advances in your career. It will help you in a way. And lastly, try to make connection, make a network with people, and use them meaningfully for your career and at the same time with the person who you're working with. um, Spend your time very wisely. Invest in the promising tools and think sometimes a little way in a way that like how the trends are being changed, we have to follow the flow in a way that we stay relevant. Yeah, so these are some sort of technical things, but in the core of all of these things, be open-minded, hardworking, be persistent, and try to develop some habits. So it will help you in a long way. And rejection will come up. I know it's a very hard times. So be, I mean, be persistent and trust on your abilities and keep updating your profile and improving yourself. So it will help you in the long way.
Thank you very much. It was a really nice, Vakar, to have you in this session. Thank you very much, and have a nice time. Have a nice days ahead, and best of luck. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Habib, for arranging